Hello friends, today we start on my most challenging adventure yet, for I have sewn ball gowns. I have tailored Victorian directoire coats. I have made costumes in less than 24 hours, done hair and makeup, painted cloaks and donned armour. But today I play God. So my initial issue is that this is a child's extra small for ages 2 to 4 and I am a moderately small adult human. Many of the pieces need resizing, including but not limited to the main onesie, the hood and the feet, and the corresponding spike portions. I'm not going to go into huge detail on this step as I am thoroughly in the making it up as I go along stage of learning pattern drafting, but would like you all to acknowledge I did in fact buy actual dot and cross paper, so you can all stop dragging me in the comments for using Amazon packing paper ironed flat. My fabric is this high quality scale printed cotton, which was easily the most expensive fabric I bought this Halloween. RIP my wallet, why am I like this, etc, etc. Especially since I then became obsessed with making sure that the scales ran in the correct direction at all times. I pretty much managed it, and despite the fact that I bought the fabric before I sized up the pattern and thus had to guesstimate the length, only had to cut one lining piece out of a different fabric in the end. The spike construction is one of my favourite bits of this costume, although it is extremely fiddly. For many of the sections, there's quite a few, I started by marking pleats on either side with a heat erasable pen. With the pleats basted in, I could sew the two main spike sections together, clip the seam allowances and turn it out. Then we make the magic happen. By attaching each side of the spikes to either side of a long strip, you make a 3D shape like a Toblerone. The seam allowance at the top and bottom get clipped so you can turn right angles, and the whole thing gets lightly stuffed to hold its shape. This pattern is very cleverly made, so each strip is an integral part of whichever body piece. Like here, the back of the onesie is narrower above the tail than below because you sew each side of the spike strip in order to make up the full back. The whole onesie went basically all together before I put the tail in, which was certainly a look. I'm glad I decided to test it with clothes on, is all I'm saying. I made a spike section for the tail too, which gets more firmly stuffed as it has to hold its shape. Putting the end on the tail wasn't too difficult, although sewing a circle into a tube is always an adventure, and when the tube is a long stuffed thing, it makes for some fun times. The hood also gets made up from two pieces in a spike section and has a fitted lining. The one piece I couldn't squeeze out of the scale fabric. In hindsight, probably not the smartest piece to have made out of different fabric, but oh well. This gets made up and then attached to the onesie at the neck. The mittens took some figuring out. The single outer section has darts in it for interest and shaping, but then there's two lining pieces. It took me longer than I want to admit, and rereading the instructions several times to figure out that all 3 pieces get stacked, sewn together, and then flipped so the outer section is on the outside, your hand goes between the 2 lining layers, and the seam allowance is between the outer and the lining. This should not have been as difficult as I made it in my head. I'm a tapper, not a clapper, by the way. If you know, you know. Finally, the mittens get a cuff to cover up all those raw edges and some elastics to keep them on my little hands. On to the feet, which were also fiddly and a little hard to figure out. The inner foot is sewn together and gets this little extension sewn onto the toe, which it told me to do by hand, and yeah, I will admit on this occasion, they were probably right. The upper foot is just 2 parts but has little darts in between the toes. This pattern loves its little darts, which need to be sewn as well as sewing the 2 sides together. Then the inner and the upper can be sewn together, not very neatly, my toes are not the same size, and lightly stuffed. They get elasticated tops too, and that pretty much finishes off the whole costume. Better. Well, hello there. I don't know how successful I was with recreating this costume. A lot of the instructions seem to indicate it would be very loose and baggy, and I have managed to make... I don't even know if most people knew about velociraptors in 1986, but I'm 100% a sleek bipedal predator that can't sit down very easily and is being lightly choked. Oh, bugger, I need my velociraptor. Oh, fun fact. If you are young enough to have watched Jurassic Park long after its original release and got annoyed that the velociraptors are not real velociraptors, like this boy, but Deinonychus instead, apparently that's because in 1993 they thought paleontologists were going to reclassify Deinonychus as a kind of velociraptor, and Jurassic Park was trying to be as close to the bleeding edge of dinosaur research as possible, pun intended, but that didn't happen, and now it just looks like they got it wrong. Honestly, the second worst bit of the Jurassic World movies was that they apparently didn't even bother updating the science to match how much further we'd come in our understanding of dinosaurs in the last 10, 20, 30 years? God, I'm old. The worst bit was that they tried to convince you that the general public was bored of dinosaurs. Bored of dinosaurs. I can only suspend my disbelief so far, Universal Studios, seriously. And the third worst bit was the giant tank of hydrogen cyanide in Fallen Kingdom. Possibly the worst idea and greatest OSHA violation I've ever seen. In case you're new here, we stan Claire running in stilettos. It's not unrealistic, you're just mad because you can't do it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Do all the things that make the YouTube gods happy. On the screen you can see the names of a whole bunch of people who've donated to support the channel. If you'd like to join their number, in the description box below you'll find a link to my Ko-fi page where you can make a one-off donation to help me purchase more prehistoric amber and incubators. Meanwhile, I'm dying to find out if this frog DNA comes with any unadvertised features. So dream big and I'll see you very soon. Yep, this is it. This is the dumbest thing I've ever done on this channel.